What is up, Rad Potential YouTube? Welcome to today's video. We're staring right down the barrel of this 4-rotor engine built by Defined Auto Works. I've never cracked this thing open, but the oil pan only has 2 bolts in it, which means one thing, it's not sealed up, and we've got to seal this up. So we're going to lift this thing up in the air, pull the engine mounts off of this deal. We're going to see what this pickup tube looks like, what the inside of the oil pan looks like, before we seal it on and put it in the car, and hopefully it stays there for a very long time. Alright guys, so I'm trying out this new thing called microphone for the videos. You have to let me know if you think the audio is that much better for this little thing hanging on my neck. Alright, there we go. Very nice. Okay, so here's what we've got. We've got oil pickup tube coming off the front iron, running back. Nicely TIG welded piece back here to the rear sump of the oil pan. So looking at the oil pan now from the top, a lot of y'all were commenting early, and I was curious why this box was here on the front as well. But if you look at the cutout for this box, is literally just to fit the pickup tube. I'm guessing that this is probably a 3-rotor pickup tube that's been lengthened to make it all the way back here. I think the 3-rotor oil pan is probably pretty shallow up in the front as well. Just based on the issues I've got clearing the rack with the 4-rotor, the 3-rotor is probably just as bad. So pickup tube looks nice, fabricated, tucked up in there, not going anywhere. Oil pan looks good as well. The one thing I did notice, and I'm not sure if I lost it or if it just wasn't in there when I picked the engine up, but I don't have a drain plug, so I gotta find a drain plug for this deal, but no big deal. That'd be the old 4-rotor sitting there chilling. Some rogue duct tape. One thing that unfortunately I won't have to take the engine back out to put this in, but I'm going to be putting the engine in today after I reseal this pan up, is I don't have the clutch for this yet. So I'm going to get this engine in here. I'm going to get all the plumbing done. We're going to get pretty much everything situated in the FD. And then when the clutch shows up in a few days or next week or whatever, ideally not the night before Deal's Gap, I'm going to drop the transmission out of the car to then put the clutch in the car. So then we're ready to rip. But a good bit of assembly required before we can get there. So otherwise, guys, it's a literal stock FD oil pump up in here, stock FD front cover. Looks like the assembly lube or stuff from the oil pan. There's some oil residue on everything I'm going to have to clean off so that the silicone sets up. This is not some fancy O-ringed oil pan. I wish it was. That'd be super nice. But this is what we're working with. You can see here, that's clearance down, I guess, to fit under the oil pump drive there. So I wonder if this is some like similar to one of the dry sump pan designs or something like that, and then it's just modified a little bit for our application with the stock oil pump. The one thing I did notice too, I think I'm gonna have to check it before I just put this on here with my engine mounts, is I think one of these holes didn't line up perfectly to be able to bolt my engine mount onto the back of the car. The Full Function Engineering engine mounts, beautiful billet machined, just a very sexy piece to be hiding under your engine under the car. However, the tolerance on getting the bolts into these deals is very tight. So the pan not being like perfect, these are pretty much perfect. So might have to do some massaging up in there. Cleaning, RTV, assembly, 4-rotor, madness. Oil pan is back on, all cleaned up. Let me tell you, ignore my mismatch of bolts to go all the way around here. The pan's a little bit thicker than OEM RX7 engine bolts, so I had to kind of just scrounge what I had. So there's like 1 or 2 Allen heads, the rest of them are 10 mil, all good, but they don't all match, which kind of irks me. It was very tricky to get this pan on here, okay, because there's so many bolts. You have to leave them all loose, and then you got to hammer this thing around to get it to fit perfectly. It's definitely a hand-built piece, and it wasn't cut out on a laser, so the holes don't all line up perfect, especially doing this on the engine hoist, not the engine stand. So, mostly ready to go. I've got the fittings on the center bearing oil feeds, these nice little aluminum pieces here to help support that so that the weight of this line and fitting is not all on the center bearing itself. Looking at my plumbing routing, some improvements from the comments section. My remote oil filter block's going to live somewhere like up on the front frame rail, right? So once I've got that situated, from there, I'm going to feed a line to these center bearings. So that'll be post filter, clean oil. This front iron fitting here is going to be receiving oil. It's just a -6, and it's going to feed from this rear oil filter block. So I just got in the mail today from New Zealand, super pumped, and you guys are going to see that go on in this video. The Franklin Performance Super Trick oil pedestal block off plate to go on here. So the Saki Bomb one is awesome, will work great to add your sensors, but for us where we need oil pressure to come from this and we need clean oil, we're going to run that Franklin Performance deal, which allows me to just delete this filter location altogether and simplify the build. Also from Franklin Performance, I've got block offs for this iron hole, a new filler neck for this one in the middle. I've also got block offs for the dipstick tubes here, here, and here, because, you know, we don't need 3 dipsticks on this deal. Still waiting on the clutch, as you know, but we're going to drop this deal in here because, well, I want it in there. So I'm going to wipe down the subframe, everything I can't reach. The engine bay, as you guys see, it has been transformed. So y'all have seen me drop engines in a million times, but you guys are going to get to watch me drop the 4-rotor in there for the 1,000,001th time. Oh yeah. The goal here is to not scratch any of the fresh paint or the freshly painted subframe. So let's make this thing BEA, or keep this thing beautiful. Dang, look at that thing just fitting right in there. Almost like we drew it up. Okay. With there not being a clutch, you kind of just got to snag the input shaft. Okay. Always have to drop one. No scratches allowed. No scratches allowed. It's like the best part about rotary engines with the transmission and the stock location is you can just reach the bell housing bolts. Even if you have like a FD or an RX7, most of the time, pop the intake manifold off, you can get down here and get these things out with really like not even have to crawl under the car except to do the one behind the starter. So I've got the engine dropped in here, everything looking sick and fresh. Coil bracket is done, except for I'm missing a couple coils, so I'm ready to start building my fuel pulsation dampener bracket and my fuel pressure regulator bracket. But first, my sick order of parts from Franklin Performance in the New Zealand has come in across the oceans to Southern Indiana, the Rad Workshop. So right here we've got the oil filter relocation adapter. Beautiful piece of billet aluminum, ready to go right on the engine. For the included -10 to -8 ORB, so this block off plate is machined with -8 ORB, which is an O-ring fitting, and we're putting a -10 AN fitting on that. So these adapter fittings are included. The O-ring's super nice, go right on there. I'm actually going to be not using one of them, this -10. I've got a -8 ORB to -6 AN line coming so that I can feed from here to my front iron for a redundancy of oil there. The next piece is something that most people would probably overlook when you build a full rotor engine using stock center irons, is we've got 3 dipstick holes, 2 of which, this front one and the middle one, actually go to nothing. The rear one is the only one, as our pan is rear sump, that's going to have a dipstick in it. So these, Franklin Performance makes these real trick machined plugs for the dipstick hole. I think now that I'm looking at how big this plug is that I need to get this dipstick tube out of the iron, and then this little plug is actually going to go down in the iron. And this comes from my red RX7 video. So I was looking for this piece right here, which is a shorty oil filler neck for a rotary engine. So my red car, I custom made one. It kind of doesn't fit very well. it works, but like, you know, under boost pressure and we get oil seeping out. We're sweating some horsepower out of our oil filler tube on the red car, but we don't want to be doing that on the 4-rotor. So this is the oil filler tube shorty cap. In addition to, from here, because we will probably install a catch can on this engine at some point, just a small one, we'll put it somewhere in the engine bay. I've got 2 breather conversions for my rear and front center iron. So, which I guess I could run any of these as the filler, but I think, oh, gone, picked it back up. Technically, either one of these center iron holes, this is literally just blank center iron right here. Any of these holes could be the oil filler tube. Obviously, the OEM one, we left it in the middle, which is fine. It lines up with the front of the oil pan, so not a bad place to fill from. We'll probably keep it here, this piece, because there's not going to be any interference with it. This, however, is going to go in this hole right here, and you can see that it's going to be pretty tight between this -6 center bearing feed and these -10 hammered in plugs. So one of these, you know, we could simply cap this if we need to. We could easily run a hose to a catch can with a filter off of it if we need to. I think there's going to be enough room. We could probably get a low profile -10, and this side is just going to have this 90-degree on it. So there should be plenty of room to fit a fitting on there. So let's get these dipstick sleeves out there and there. Let's get this piece out, and we will hammer these awesome billet machined New Zealand parts into our 4-rotor engine. Got parts on this thing from all over the place. I'm pretty sure the eccentric shaft also comes from New Zealand. There's not very many people. Pretty sure there's just one guy that makes those eccentric shafts. Oh yeah. If you guys don't have a giant adjustable wrench in your toolbox, are you even a real mechanic? There we go. Just took a little coaxing with the hammer. Oh yeah, this is working perfect. Beautiful. Dust off the old Racing Beat rotor cap. Look at that. Now it's a real rotary engine right here. We've got a rotor-shaped oil filler cap on it. How about that? I don't think that's going to be the permanent one, but that's what's going to be on there for now. Honestly, I'll probably put an OEM plastic one on because it's going to look super nice just having a plastic one on. So let's find a plastic one really quick. Here we go. Just take the old RX7 one and put it on this engine. Spare REW. Plastic cap ready to rock. Give it a little mint detailed. Dang, looks like there's overspray on this. Oh, there definitely is. Look at that. Well, we didn't do it. We don't overspray things. Oh, nice. Look at that. Ready to go. OEM plus 4-rotor. How about that? Fire me up. What this looks like on the RX7. My little filler neck down here, the custom one, you can just give it a little wiggle and pull it right out. So if this Mazda Speed cap was in really good shape and really not blue, we'd put it on the 4-rotor car, but that's the RX7 oil filler, ready for some Franklin performance upgrades. And I know y'all are here watching 4-rotor stuff, but hey, turbo 2-rotor, also a good way to make 400 horsepower. Between the last clip and right now, I delivered all of the stainless exhaust stuff to get TIG welded. And I had a thought. As I was driving the yellow RX-8 with my bike strapped to the back, I'll put a picture on it because it looked really sweet. And I was really proud of it, how it looked after I took a nice little gravel road, and maybe we'll rally an RX-8 at some point in the future. But anyways, so I'm thinking, cruising down this gravel road. about this rear oil filter pedestal. Okay, so we went to something like this because the Saki Bomb or a stock FD, oil pedestal isn't going to have the provisions that we need to be able to feed oil to our center bearings and recirculate the oil to the front bearing, which is what I wanted this one to do, as you guys have seen in this video. So my hours of thought are because of this one thing. This is a remote oil filter conversion block, which is what I'm doing. However, the FD RX7, I need to feed oil to the engine somewhere. Okay, so this, if I were to put it on my first gen over here, it's a T2 engine. The oil feed to the engine is at the bottom of the rear iron, right where the oil pressure regulator is. From there, oil goes up through the filter, distributed into the engine, through the eccentric shaft, out the front. The excess pressure gets bled off by the pressure regulator, right at the bottom of the iron, into the oil pan. So, if you put this piece at the top, on the pedestal where the oil filter was, on that T2 block, okay, oil comes in the bottom of the iron. It goes up. It would come out this port right here. You would go over on the firewall, have your remote filter, you would come back from the remote filter, and you would go in on this port right here. These two ports are not connected in here, okay, which is what I thought this was. It's separate. So, I have a couple options. One, I take this piece, I put it on the shelf, I order the piece that has one port on it, not two, just one, and the one port piece, I believe, feeds both of these holes. Okay, so what that would mean is that I can feed oil into it, and the oil goes to the regulator at the bottom of the iron and goes to the engine. Okay, option two, I keep this piece on here, I drill a hole in the side of it, okay, so this axis right here, leaving the O-ring stuff on the bottom. We'll drill it midway up. I drill that hole, I tap the hole I drilled on the end, okay? That hole will go all the way through, linking both of these ports. I tap the hole on the end, I plug the hole on the end, I put both of my fittings on here, and now it doesn't matter which one of these two ports I feed oil in. Oil can come in, and I can use this other port to then loop oil back to the front iron like I'd initially planned. The two center bearings are going to get oil from the remote oil filter mount. Whatever option I'm at now, 4, would be I run 2 feed lines from my remote oil filter to both of these, and I would have 2 lines running into this. One of them is going to bleed off the pressure to the oil pressure regulator. The other one is going to feed oil to the rest of the engine. So I'm at a little bit of a conundrum because I could probably get this piece, the new piece here, by like next week, Monday. I don't really think I'm going to be ready to like fire the car up before then, so it's not a huge deal to just change this out. I was really hoping to be able to do the plumbing. I really wanted to, though, have this piece that was drilled that way. I mean, this piece is super sweet. Frankel Performance did a really good job, as you saw, and it installed and it looked great. But I just, on their listing, it doesn't show that the hole, and I thought there was a hole, and sometimes you need a hole somewhere. So I think that me drilling this isn't going to mess these threads up that much as long as my plug doesn't stick out into the threads. So I'm going to cheat this up a little higher just to make sure. Definitely want to punch this one because this is a beautifully rounded piece of aluminum. So that's going to be plenty of space. And ultimately these... it's barely going to impact the threads of the 2 ORB fittings, so not really that worried about it. We're sending it. No going back now, huh? Wait, okay, that's the outside. All right, perfect. We could also use this port for like a oil pressure sensor if we really wanted to. That way we could monitor pressure at the front and back of the engine. Let's see, make sure we're straight. Oh yeah. I think that's going to work perfect. So you can see my passageway that I've drilled in there. And what that's going to do is link the two holes. We'll feed, like I said, the top hole, the bottom hole, which will be receiving oil through the passageway, will go to the pressure regulator and then out the back. So just like a fuel system, every single thing that needs oil is going to receive the oil before the oil hits the pressure regulator, such that everything behind the pressure regulator stays high pressure. Had to turn my jams off, but the finished project. So, plugged, 1/8 MPT threaded. Y'all know the hole that connects the two pipes in there, the two tubes. It's gonna be very hard for you guys to see, but the thing to consider as well when you're drilling holes and threading in stuff and doing whatever, my two ORB fittings, so here and here, when they thread in, do not block the hole. Okay, so like you're gonna drill the hole high enough and then you thread that in and then you're like, well, I didn't have oil pressure, my engine blew up. So right there, definitely can see that there's daylight coming through from each hole to each hole. Look at that super sick double bracket holding my pulsation dampener and the fuel pressure regulator. One to the coil, one to the block. Nice and sturdy, not going anywhere. I went ahead and made the fuel lines to connect between all these fixed constraints up here. This, not moving, connected. I still have to run the line for my feed and the line for my return through here. But otherwise, we're looking fresh and I'm stoked. I can finally go home for the night because I finished what I set out to accomplish for today, which was mount the fuel pulsation dampener and the regulator and get my oil system sorted out exactly how I wanted it to be with the parts from Franklin Performance out in New Zealand. So super stoked with my modified little oil pedestal thing back here and get it set up. So I'm happy with how that's shaking out. It's gonna be tight in here fitting all these other lines, but this front iron is going to connect to the rear iron. This port right here on the front of this T is going to go down to the filter, which is going to be remounted somewhere up over here or on the other side over there. Most likely actually on that other side. So this line might get a little tricky and it might actually work better to snake it out this way. We still got to figure that exact location for the remote filter out yet. And then I've got to sort out some sort of a catch can setup. I went ahead and tried a leftover Vibrant 90-degree fitting that I had here, and it's going to fit perfectly on both of these breather ports here and here. So that is basically engineered out. It's going to work. We're going to be able to fit a line in there with the proximity to the center bearing feeds. So super stoked. Everything seems to be coming together. I am excited. I'm ready to be done with all of the hard part figure outing. What I mean by that very eloquent series of words is, you know, all the hard constraints, oil coolers, radiator, exhaust, things that need fabricated are basically going to be almost done after this. Aside from AC lines and the condenser, which we can do, you know, after the tail of the dragon. It's early April. We're not even going to be sweating in this thing just yet. Everything major is sorted. As in, I don't have to do any crazy engineering and math on assembling parts that I have before me. So the intake manifold is a whole nother story. It should be getting here ASAP, which I'm stoked. We're going to have to modify it just a teeny bit to support our brake booster, but that's no big deal. We'll get those bungs welded on. Kyle will get us taken care of. But otherwise, I'm ready to start wiring on this deal. It's going to be great. We've got this nice, clean, copacetic engine bay. All the factory wiring is still in here. Still got to do the remote battery mount thing, but that's pretty much sorted out exactly how you would do it on a stock FD, so no big deal. We'll add an extra ground wire to the block, but we should be pretty much good. So the next, not really the next video, because there's going to be like a rally car video and probably another video on this and some other stuff as it comes out, but coming soon is the Haltech Nexus R3 wiring. Get fired up for that. Some other cool trick bits, if you guys don't know this, which I'll go over it in that video, but because it's sitting right here in front of me, I want to show it to you. This right here, that thing, guess what that is? It's a boot, firewall boot. This is an OEM Mazda RX7 FD engine harness firewall boot. LMS EFI. You can find these. He's got the hookup with some Mazda dealership somewhere. Get you one of these if you're putting an aftermarket harness in your car. The Haltech boot that's right here is inadequate. It is not the proper size. So we'll deal with that in the future. In addition, LMS EFI, he also has the connectors so that we can run the factory style crank angle sensor on the front of this. So, and I might go ahead and pre-wire it so that if we want to switch to a 36-1 or a 3-wire Hall effect sensor instead of the 2-wire style like these, that we can make that work. So other than waiting for the clutch to come in the mail, it's just going to be up to me putting everything together and then getting some sort of a bass tune in this thing, and hopefully it starts. But regardless, no matter what, we're going to be bringing it to the gap. It is going to come out. We will push this thing. It will be a 10-minute car, but it's going to look real good. Not like the Supra from Fast and Furious 1 when it's a 10-minute car on the trailer, but it's going to look good. And we're going to bring it, whether it's running or not, because I said I would. We're going to bring it. So that's going to be the end of today's video, guys. If the audio, the new mic, this little bug thing that I've been wearing, plus this whole apparatus that you guys can't see up here on top of the camera, if you like it, let me know in the comments. If you think I need to do some more adjusting on it, let me know in the comments. But hopefully everything is working better than just using the old school camera mic with a little squirrel tail on it. So hopefully you guys like that stuff better. Comment below with any questions. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep it rad. All right, guys. Do any of y'all ride mountain bikes? Because I ride mountain bikes. It's super fun. Best thing ever. Excited to get back on the Steed, my Rocky Mountain altitude up here in Indiana, albeit it's very flat. Still cranked out about 9 miles today at Scales Lake in Boonville, Indiana, and I am stoked to get my legs burning. Start cranking. Deals Gap, one of my favorite things to do when we go to Deals Gap. You see all the Tennessee crew that I normally travel with, they like to party, which, not that I don't like to party either, but I like to party not as hard. And I get up in the morning and go ride my bike because there's some beautiful mountain bike trails at Deals Gap. So maybe, just maybe, if some of y'all want to ride, hit me up in the Deals Gap Rotary Rally Facebook page and we can coordinate like a fun, hey, we're going mountain biking the day when we drive our RX7's day. Peace.